short little break. I understand that the team has our fee schedule or fee scores together, so I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the subcommittee. The CalPERS team has opened and calculated each firm's fee score and added it to the technical score that you adopted before the break for each proposer. We've arranged each of the proposers in order of their combined technical and fee score from highest to lowest, which I'll now read out to you. Mercer US received 162 points for their technical score and 457.72 points for their fee score, for a combined technical and fee score of 619.72. Gallagher Benefit Services Incorporated received 96 points for their technical score and 498 points for their fee score, for a combined technical and fee score of 594. Grant Thornton Public Sector LLC received 167 points for their technical score and 518.75 points for their fee score, for a combined technical and fee score of 685.75. Domain Experts Corporation received 71 points for their technical score and 600 points for their fee score, for a combined technical and fee score of 671 points. Siegel received 102 points for their technical score and 422.03 points for their fee score, for a combined technical and fee score of 524.03. Global Governance Advisors, LLC, received 188 points for their technical score and 383.08 points for their fee score, for a combined technical and fee score of 571.08 points. And last, Korn Ferry US received 131 points for their technical score and 196.06 points for their fee score, for a combined technical and fee score of 327.06 points. Would anybody like me to repeat any of those figures?
Mr. Chair.
We just run down from highest to lowest to make sure we have them all right. So the highest was Grant Thornton, correct?
Yes.
Followed by Domain Experts?
Correct.
Followed by Mercer?
Correct.
Followed by Gallagher?
Correct.
Followed by Global Governance Advisors?
Correct.
Followed by Siegel?
Yes.
Followed by Korn Ferry?
Yes.
Okay. So what's the pleasure of the subcommittee in terms of identifying as we move the proposals that we want to bring forward for a physical interview? Is there a number that you want to use as a cutoff point? I mean, I would recommend probably no more than 3 or 4 should we actually interview. But what's the pleasure of the committee?
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment?
Sure.
So I just wanted to highlight that, you know, as you see, when you see the scores on the fee piece, like a total score of 600 means they have the lowest proposed fee score submitted for the RFP.
Right.
So I just want to make sure we're calibrating that, given it's a combination of the technical ability score and the fee score getting to that overall combination. You could interview all 7. You could have a cutoff at whatever number you decide, but I just want to make sure there was clarification there, given we have seen, at least in this proposal, some folks that have high technical scores, but also probably some higher fees, which are driving their fee score down. So I just want to clarify that for the group.
This is Irina, Mr. Chair. I would be comfortable at bringing back 3. I realized the point that Mr. Hoffner's made, but I think at least in one case, a high technical score has such a considerably low fee score that it feels like it would be hard to justify. If you cut it off at 3, you're pulling in two of the highest technical scores and still capturing, reasonable fee scores.
Very good. Would you like to make that in the form of a motion?
Sure. I would move that we bring back for interview the firms with the three highest combined scores.
So that would be Grant Thornton, Domain Experts Corporation, and Mercer. Is
Correct.
that correct, Ms. Tucker?
Yes, that's what I have noted as well.
All right. So is there a second?
I second.
Okay. We have a motion before us. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Middleton?
Yes, I have some discussion. I would like to go back and ask Mr. Hoffner. Domain Experts had the lowest technical score of any of the candidates that we had. Do you still consider them to be an acceptable passing score?
Thank you for the question, Ms. Middleton. The RFP does not have identified a minimum threshold there. They did meet the minimum qualifications to proceed to this point. I would note in the evaluation that was done by the subcommittee or the technical review group, there's some technical errors within the proposal, some grammatical issues, and basically from that perspective, there were also, I think, some limited experience related to what we were asking for, though they do have a pretty good understanding of CalPERS as an organization. Some of the program areas, I would think they didn't sort of hit on the high marks in some of the areas of what we're looking for in this RFP. And that would be sort of the assessment of the overall review group that conducted the technical review.
Right.
I hope that helps.
It helps. There were two overall scores that I thought just stood out, Korn Ferry and Domain Experts, for completely different reasons. One scoring so well technically and so poorly on their fees, and the other being the opposite. My first time through this, 3 is always a good number to start with, and we have with Mercer and with Grant Thornton, 2 finalists that scored well in both categories, which gives me some cause to believe that this is an acceptable number. If in fact Mr. Hoffner and his team believe that Domain Experts is satisfactory on their technical score, and I think that's what he was saying.
Well, I guess I would like to weigh in here, and Doug, let's be candid on the conversation here. They were acceptable, but they weren't one of the firms that really rose to the occasion in the RFP, correct?
In my estimation, in my review, and I sat on the technical review committee, yes. As I mentioned, they do have a good understanding of us. They do some work with us today related to validation of existing metrics. So they do have work there. They've done some recruiting for us in the past historically. But the recruitment part is not part of this RFP, and the other experience is not as relevant in response to what we're looking for, in my opinion. But again, they do have they are working with us today. They do some other work for us, but again, I don't think, given what I saw and read and the other proposals, that it was one of the higher rated entities that submitted. So.
Thank you. I guess in my history, working through some of these things, lots of times we see such a big variance in the fee schedules because they put in such a great reduced fee in order to be able to gain the business, which is fine, and they're then by contract obligated to that fee. But if that's the kind of work that we're going to get and they can't actually perform, then we've done ourselves a disservice as well. That they really aren't up to the task of putting this together, especially with the fee structure they put in place. So I just want to get your perspective, both Ms. Tucker and Ms. Hoffner, as where you think that falls in this discussion.
So let me go first. Oh, sorry, Michelle. Please proceed.
Oh, no, go ahead, Mr. Hoffner.
Okay. I guess I look at it, Mr. Chair, and given the overall points identified for both the fee and the technical, we have a break point. There's the three you've identified. I think if we went down, Gallagher is at what, a total of 594. You would capture them, and we went to 4. The interviews, as were identified for next week, are basically 35 minutes piece per whoever the number of entities that you're going to be interviewing. So it's not a lot of time. I think if you got to 4 or 5, and I know 5 is a lot, but when you get to you see the full picture of the interviews themselves, I think you'd see a pretty good picture of kind of the respondents that you've received so far. So, we've identified the time next week. It's 35 minutes per proposer. Whoever goes forward. So I think I would be comfortable going a little farther down the line, given we'll have this relationship as the board's independent consultant as proposed for the next 5 years. So that would be my thought.
So let me ask you this question, Mr. Hoffner. Do you think there's or Ms. Tucker, either one, do you think there's any wiggle room on the fee schedule for some of these if they're actually are in the process? Bring up global governance advisors, for instance. They had a great technical score, obviously way overpriced compared to others. Do you think their fee structure can come down in order to accommodate where we need to be?
Based on the RFP, we asked them to give us the one number for sort of basing their highest hourly rate. I think it was pretty clear. So I don't know the answer to that, Mr. Chair. I mean, we've essentially asked everybody the same question, and I don't even know what the number is that the contract procurement team put that together. It sounds like a fairly high rate. And so I think the question is, how much is that over that 5-year period of time? Depends on the amount of work you're going to do. But in order to get to them or to get to that level, you'd have to, for the interviews, you'd have to drop down fairly considerably into adding additional candidates, which I don't think is a problem. And I think, the interview itself would help identify kind of strengths, weaknesses, challenges, their experience. I thought they had some of the strongest experience in the sector, both in the North American public pension systems, in Canada, United States, et cetera. So that's why I think one of the stronger ratings that we gave them as a technical score was their perceived relevance with the work that we do, both in financial institutions, but a lot in the public pension space.
I thank you for that. I hesitate to go to 5, but I understand that we're going to go into 5 according to the scores is where we need to be to get the highest technical score piece in. Because without having them having GGA in an interview, we can't ask them if they can reduce their fees to get down to a place where we can be comfortable. But then again, that's just my opinion. I see Ms. Oliveras has a comment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would actually think we take a look at GGN for the highest technical score, and then Grant Thornton, who came in #1 overall, and then maybe 2 of the lower cost providers, just to see exactly where they're at and what they could potentially bring. It may be that they have other ideas or some type of newer intelligence that might be helpful to us. So maybe a total of 4, max.
All right, would you like to put that in the form of a substitute motion?
Sure.
So can I just clarify, Mr. Chair, real quick?
Yes.
So the way the RFP is written, it's the total combined score. You provide the cutoff, but I think GGA is 5th in the total point score.
Correct.
So I don't think you can't say Grant Thornton, Mercer, you can't randomly select. You can say a threshold, pick the number, Ms. Oliveras, that you'd want to say what's the breaking point, and then we would, if the subcommittee approves of that, then the interviews would go to that point, and anybody below that threshold would not be interviewed.
So then we could bring back the top 5 rather than the top
Correct.
3.
If someone made a motion of saying that the cutoff point is 570 points, then we would interview the top 5. Is that right, Mr. Hoffner?
Correct. That is correct.
570. Okay,
Pardon?
I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I move that we bring back those candidates with a minimum point value of 570.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that, on the substitute motion? Excuse me, thank you. Seeing no comments or questions, Ms. Hopper, please call the roll.
Lisa Middleton,
Aye.
Stacy Oliveris,
Aye.
Irena Ortega.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, on the substitute motion made by Stacy Oliveris, Lisa Middleton seconded. I have all ayes.
Thank you, Ms. Hopper. That motion then passes. That means we will interview Grant Thornton, domain experts, Mercer, Gallagher, and Global Governance Advisors. Is that correct, Ms. Tucker?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chair.
All right, very good.
All right, well, that does conclude today's action item.
All right, that takes us to the agenda. And we thank you for all the hard work, both on your end and your team. So thank everyone for helping put this all together. I know it's not easy, and it's even more difficult when we're in remote locations. So thank you for the good work. That brings us to agenda item 6, summary of subcommittee direction. Mr. Hoffner, do you have anything?
No, just looking forward to seeing you all basically a week from Friday for the 5 interviews.
Very good. That brings us to item 7, public comment. I don't know if any from the public is here. Is anyone on the phone, Mr. Fox?
Mr. Chair, there are no commenters on the phone.
Very good. Then without objection, this meeting will be adjourned and we will meet everybody next Friday to do the interviews. Thanks for being here. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all.